I'm Kim.
And Tom is not with us tonight. We don't know where he is. Actually, he's where?
We think he's in St. Louis.
Enemy territory. Yes, of course. Off on work-related trip.
Yep.
So we do work for a living, all of us. We don't just sit around and do this. So we miss him tonight. Sorry he can't be here. He'll be back with us next week, hopefully. But so that's where Tom is. And so here we are. Last week, at the end of our discussion last week, we were, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? 3 games in Chicago, come home, 3 games with the Rockies. And we said, well, it'd be nice if they could split those 6 games. And then maybe we won't be, maybe we'll still be at 500. And then somebody joked, well, maybe in 2 games we'll be under 500. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. So what was the deal? We know what the deal was. How bad is it, Kim?
Last year, it was our bullpen that was the Achilles heel, maybe 2 Achilles heel for the team. Mm-hmm. This year, it's not the bullpen, it's the starters.
Yeah.
Was it a major league worst ERA of, 5.9 plus?
For the starters?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's got the team ERA up in the team ERA is up in the 430s, which, the bullpen brings it down, but the starters pitch most of the innings, right? Well, maybe not this year. Generally, they pitch most of the innings. They probably do have more innings than the bullpen, but not by as much as you would like to see.
Yeah, we have 2 complete games so far this year. Last year, didn't we just have 1 total?
Yeah, well, blind squirrels, right?
Blind squirrel, yeah.
Once in a while, things go your way, but not that much with the starting pitching. So,
but we are encouraged. AD is now with the team, D. Sclafani.
Yeah.
He did, throw 40 to 50 pitches, made 40 to 50 throws yesterday. I think I read approximately 60 feet apart, so they're going to expand that.
Yeah, said it felt good. Price, though, said, it felt good today. The key is what's he going to feel like tomorrow. Right. And I haven't really heard anything about that. But so hopefully he's feeling better. And, Bailey's still progressing. Finnegan, I don't know. But if we can get one of them back, that would be great.
Right.
That would be great. So.
But we did have a silver lining this week, right?
What, the win?
Well, didn't we have a SoCon pitcher, or we're going to talk about that later? SoCon being the Southern Conference?
Yeah, let's come back to him later.
Okay.
Let's come back to him later. The offense scored plenty of runs, as we know. A lot of guys are hitting. Not everybody comes up with the big hit when you want it, but a lot of guys are producing, being productive, and getting guys on base. Billy's still got this consecutive game on base streak going, I think.
And he's up to 21 now, and I think Joey's up to 24.
Yeah, something crazy like that. So they're getting on base, and and hopefully the guys behind him will keep hitting. Suarez has started to hit again. Duvall's had some couple hits. He hadn't hit a home run for a while.
Now, Suarez, I believe at one point, I'm going to guess he's around 303 right now, maybe 305.
Something like that.
But he's got his average back up because he was down into the high 280s, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe. Kozar continues to amaze, hitting 350 with a sore left wrist. So he's missed this past week. I think he did not play 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
Joey was up to 299, then went down to 285. Now he's at 294.
Mm-hmm.
Continues to be Joey. Just an amazing hitter. A joy to watch.
Right, yeah.
But the key to me, what's hurt us is Duvall. He has not performed in that 4-hole the past 2 weeks. And you sit there and you say, okay, do you want to move Suarez since he has the hot hand up to the 4-hole and put Jeff's favorite, Shebs, in the 5-hole and Duvall in 6? It's got to be crossing Brian Price's mind.
Well, the other thing, too, what about Mesoraco?
Yes.
He's hitting 8. And I think he's had him down there because he's played sporadically, and he didn't want to jumble the lineup every day or every other day just because he wants to put Mesoraco up there and put pressure on him. But he's starting to really swing the bat. Well, I mean, his average has been nice all along. He's not been, he's been up in the high 200s all along, and now he's home run he hit the other day, way up in the upper deck.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's the guy on that team that can hit the ball probably farther than anybody. And I think that what's going to become of him in the lineup, I think is a thing. And is he hit fourth in the past?
The 2014 was his All-Star year. I think he hit 25 homers, had 80 ribbies, in only about 114 games.
Yeah. Where did he bat that year?
He batted all over.
That's what I thought.
He was 6th and 7th a lot, and he was so hot that I think there were several games where Price had him up in the 4-hole.
Yeah.
And you're right. He is, as our announcers have told us, he is turning on that fastball tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's actually been a couple of games where yesterday, and what was it, the 8th inning, hit that rocket line drive over the center fielder's head, who seemed to catch everything, but he couldn't get to that one, and he was stranded at second base. So good point about Mesoraco, Jeff. He's definitely a wild card that could be moving up in the hole.
Yeah, and if he moves up, who slides down? Does do you just sort of move him up to 5 or do you put him 6 and slide Schebler back to 7? Which I think I'd be fine with that. I mean, if you get a guy. If you've got Duvall comes back around and can stay 4th, fine. If not, if he continues to struggle, maybe Mesoraco goes up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's be interesting to see what happens with that. But I think eventually you got to move him up. He's not an 8th place hitter.
No.
Not in the not for the long haul, and not the way he's starting to hit. And he played He played Saturday.
Yes.
In a late afternoon game, and he came back and played Sunday. So I was not really expecting to see him. I think if they'd have played a night game, he would not have played. But the late afternoon game, he came back and played. So I took that as a good sign.
Especially with his hammy that was a little bit sore.
Right. So.
And he threw out a runner.
Mm-hmm.
I was glad to see him.
Well, they've been good at that this year, both of them. Barnhart's done the same thing. So.
Yes, he has.
Okay. Going to add a new little segment here to our fledgling program here, and that is we want to each week one of us is going to just talk about a red from years gone by that we kind of liked. Whether eventually we'll probably talk about who's our favorite red, and then you can talk about Bench or I can talk about Rose or whatever we want to talk about, or Schebler, yes. But we kind of wanted to let's highlight some guy. We're old Reds fans, so hopefully there's some other old Reds fans listening, and we can just throw out a name and talk about him a little bit and remind people of a guy and go, yeah, I forgot all about that guy, So we're going to start with you this week, and you're going back to the 70s, back to the Big Red Machine days, and who are we going to talk about?
Yeah, Jeff had mentioned this earlier today, and I started thinking about it. We were hoping to have a guest presenter, a guest partner today, but that didn't work out. So there was I was telling Jeff, I was in South Carolina for so many years when the Reds haven't been good. So I've sort of been out of the loop. Came back to Ohio about 5 years ago. Get to see them all the time now. So I really don't have anyone from the 90s and 2000s that I can think of, but back in the 70s, the Big Red Machine, they had just won the World Series in 75, beat the Sox in 7, come back and they pick up a player. They picked up 2 players, but one from the Expos and one from the Atlanta Braves, and his name was Mike Lum.
Yeah.
Mike Lum played center field for the Reds quite a bit, was a lefty batter and a lefty fielder. I think his number was 28. I don't remember for sure.
With the Reds, it was 21.
21.
He wore 28 with the Braves.
Okay.
So 21 with the Reds.
And he
from
was
76 to 78. He was there for 3 seasons.
He was just a steady player off the bench, and I remember looking at the back of a baseball card and read that he was, I think at the time, the only Hawaiian-born player in Major League Baseball. Why I remember that, who knows?
Well, I remembered that. It was something they talked about.
Do you remember on the back of a baseball card, though?
Well, yeah, those little notes, those
right.
are great. That's probably why we remember half the junk we remember, but that was something they would talk about. I remember them talking about that on TV, whatever. Okay. It's like Mike Lum, because I was living around here. I was growing up around here. You were growing up in New York, right, at the time, or were you in South Carolina by then?
Yeah, I moved to New York in '74, so when Lum came around.
Right. so it was just something that got talked about. I just remember it, And then we were doing a little research here before, like looking up some stuff, making sure we remembered what years he played and all that. And he was also the first player of Japanese ancestry to play in the major leagues. Of course, that he's far from the only one anymore,
right.
But he was the first one of Japanese ancestry to play in the majors. So it wasn't like the first guy that came over from Japan being the first one, Ichiro or whoever. Maybe there was somebody before Ichiro. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was Mike Lum. So what did you like about him, the way he played?
I think it was one of those deals that you looked at the Reds teams back then, and they had so many superstars, and even those who weren't superstars, they were legitimate players that other teams would want to have. So Lum backed up who?
Well, if he played in the center, he would have backed up Geronimo.
Yeah. Now Geronimo one year, when he was batting 8th, hit 307 from the 8 hole.
I think it was one of those 2 years.
Concepcion was, I think, 281 in the 7 hole, and Geronimo in the 8 hole 307. And so you had a lineup where with Geronimo, you didn't think of him as a power hitter, and I've been in games and seen him hit home runs or a home run or two. But he had a rocket arm. As a matter of fact, if memory serves correctly, he started with the Yankees in their organization. It was a pitcher. And so one of the reasons I rooted for a guy like Mike Lum or Bob Bailey, who was the other player they got that year, their bench players from the Montreal Expos, is I just wanted them to do well because they were around all these superstars and they were just sort of like your average everyday Joe player. And I wanted them to win a World Series title. Since the Reds had done it in 75, they got them in 76. As a little kid, you're starry-eyed and thinking nothing but the best, and I wanted to see those two get a title, a ring.
Yeah. Well, you're right. I was looking things up here. Geronimo was signed by the Yankees as an amateur free agent in 1967. But then he was drafted by the Astros away from the Yankees in a Rule 5 draft.
Ah.
And so that's hanging up with the Astros. And, of course, he was in the big trade in 71 when we got Joe Morgan and everybody else. So he was part of that deal, of course. So Geronimo, in 76, batted 307. 75, he batted 257. So 76 was definitely his best year. But you had a guy, and he had over almost 500 at-bats that year. So Lum definitely got some time in the outfield with that and so forth. And so cool. So Mike Lum, that's our blast
throwback
from the
player,
past,
yeah.
our throwback guy, or whatever we're going to call it. So we got to come up with a better name for it. But anyway, so Tom or I will have one for us next week, and we'll reminisce about another guy a little bit. So, all right, back to pitching. Wojo. Adrian. Where did I come up with that? Asher Wojciechowski. Who's ever heard of the guy? Brian Price didn't even know him, I don't think, because he wasn't on the 40-man in spring training.
Right.
So this guy shows up, and I mean, the guy looked like a pitcher, didn't he? Did you watch? Did you get to watch?
Yeah,
I mean, he was aggressive. He was in the strike zone, and Price is like complaining like constantly. I wish these guys would throw strikes. Easier said than done, right? Or they'd all do it all the time. But man,
well, the idea, if I heard the story correctly, because I was in and out watching the game, if I heard correctly, he got the news. Was it like 1 or 2 in the morning?
During that 18-inning AAA game that Price is also complaining about.
That he was going to be moved up.
Yeah.
So he drove from Louisville to Cincinnati the day he pitched.
Right.
Jeff, that's about what? A 2.5-hour drive. 2-hour drive.
2-hour drive, maybe.
So you just go up, I-71, I-75, come in. And I think that morning you had tweeted out, give this guy a shot. You had an article on him. Give this guy a shot.
Yeah.
He comes in. He retires the first 11 batters he faces before he gives up a single. And then Price, all right, I'm not going to take any chances. Bring in their closer in a non-save situation because it was a 4-run lead.
Right.
And Asher gets the win. Wojciechowski gets the win. So it was just phenomenal to see someone not walk batters left and right, and not on a 1-2 pitch throw a meatball down the middle of the plate.
Exactly. So and he was a starter in Louisville. And this guy was a first-round draft pick of Toronto.
Yes.
He had a little cup of coffee with the Astros a couple years ago. Didn't pitch well.
No.
They cut him loose. We signed him in April. We know what the starting pitching's been like. His ERA as a starter in Louisville is like under 2, 1.3 or something crazy like that. So do you want to see this guy on the mound one day in the first inning? Why not give him a chance?
Yeah,
what do you
the
think?
results like we saw earlier this week or late last weekend, yes, we want to see him on the mound. We need something.
I agree. I can see Price throwing him out there a couple more times in relief just to, safe side a little bit for that guy's sake. But man, I tell you, when a guy pitches like that, of course, we've seen other guys pitch really well at times. Stevenson, put him in the mound. Reed, put him in there to start, and it's like deer in the headlights, right? It's like a totally different. Yeah. They don't handle it well. So
can he be our version this year of not Tim Adelman, Dan Straley?
Dan Straley. Yeah, that's what Feldman's been compared to that a little bit, but he's not been as good as. He's not been as consistent, I think, as Straley was. But yeah, we needed Dan Straley or two to really do that for us.
Wojciechowski, you mentioned he wasn't even with the Reds in spring training, was he?
Well,
or the very.
I think I saw they signed him in late April, maybe.
Well, late April or early April?
No,
or
early.
Late March.
Was it April?
Because they broke.
You're right. It would have been after. It would have been after the season started.
And I think Straley was along the same lines that if he was with the Reds last year in camp, it was not long, but regardless, they remind me, their situations remind me of each other. A player who's been in the majors for a while, mediocre at best, and for Wojciechowski, that's definitely a stretch.
Yeah, they signed him April 21st, so yeah, after he was not with them. That's why Price did know him, because he wasn't even with the Reds in spring training. So
right.
When I saw April 21st, I think it was in my head of I was thinking March, not April, like the season hadn't started. So, but yeah, the Diamondbacks released him on March 28th, and then Reds signed him on April 21st. So there you go. There he is, and he was, like I said, he was drafted by the Blue Jays in the first round back in 2010. He was a player to be named later in a trade from the Blue Jays to the Astros to complete a bigger trade that involved a bunch of just average guys, nobody super important. Marlins picked him up on waivers in 2016. He was granted free agency that year. Signed as a free agent with the Diamondbacks this past December, and then late in spring training they cut him loose March 28th. So they didn't make the team, and they decided not to keep him around in AAA. So maybe the Diamondbacks, maybe they're really loaded with good pitchers, but so the Reds signed him in April 21st. So there he is. I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him out there. What do you got to lose?
And he's from the vaunted Southern Conference, the Citadel Bulldogs.
Yes, he pitched for the Citadel. He's a South Carolina boy from Beaufort.
Well, actually, in South Carolina, we call that
It's
Beaufort. In
Beaufort.
North Carolina, it's pronounced Beaufort.
Exactly.
And now, what is really interesting about the South Carolinians is you're playing ball in early February for the most part in good weather.
Yeah.
So you're playing year-round, and going to the Citadel was by no means easy.
No.
And so what he had to put up with just to matriculate to the Citadel speaks volumes of this man's character.
Yeah. I would totally agree with that. And they've had a pretty good program down there for baseball, haven't they? Haven't they been? I remember at one time they were pretty good. It seemed like
the Southern Conference hasn't. It hasn't even done as well as the Big South Conference. The Big South Conference, you've had Coastal Carolina, who's now in the Sun Belt,
right?
And you've had Liberty University. Those two schools, in smaller schools in the South, stood up. But yeah, the Citadel hasn't stood out. The Southern Conference hasn't stood out like the Big South even. So I'm trying to think of who in the Southern Conference would be someone you think of as really good, and honestly, I just can't think of anyone.
Right. But it just seemed like, when I was down living in Virginia, working down there for years before, it seemed like they had a couple of times when they were good, like they were in the regionals a couple of times or something. Just somewhere back in my.
I think they were one time against Georgia Tech.
somewhere back in my brain.
Okay.
I remember that. So good. Yeah, I hope he really gets the chance to really get it done. So what? We talked about Mesoraco. I wanted to get to that, and we really think that we're sitting here recording this in front of my television, and the Reds and the Indians are playing, and the Reds are just getting ready to bat in the bottom of the first.
Feldman struck out the side.
Yeah, did he? Did he strike them all out?
Yeah.
Was Mesoraco in the lineup there?
No, they've got Barnhart, which kind of makes sense. 2 days in a row.
2 days in a row, yeah. Well, we don't want to push Mesoraco too hard. We want to keep him around and make sure he stays healthy and everything. So I think, you think back to some of the things we talked about the first couple of weeks, Billy not getting on base, not doing anything, and so now he's doing that.
He is.
I just have a lot of hope that this is a lineup that we're building. I don't know what it'll look like in August. We talked about that. Is Kozar going to still be around? What's it going to look like next year? One of these middle of the lineup guys going to be a good trade bait. Right time to get something for him for whatever. We don't know what the front office is going to do with that. And there's Billy leading off the game with a hit, and
my usual tweet: "Stop what you're doing. Billy's on base."
Exactly. So will he steal? What will he do? Of course, when the scouting report for every pitcher says, "Do not walk this guy, especially to start the game. Especially leading off an inning when nobody's out. Do not walk this guy." But he's been walking a little bit more, and so forth. So
you know what I've noticed? Talking about the Joey Votto, what's the word I'm looking for? The Joey Votto leadership, the Joey Votto. Have you noticed the past couple of games, Suarez, what he's doing with 2 strikes? The key should be see.
Is he choking up?
He's choking up, Jeff.
Is he? I hadn't noticed that.
So. Duvall's not.
Oh, he's just choking. No, just kidding. But that's good. That's good. I mean, Suarez.
I almost sent you something today I'd read about how many players who, like Billy Buckner. Remember Bill Buckner, unfortunately known for the error against the Mets. But Bill Buckner,
he was a good hitter.
Never struck out 3 times in a game at a major league level.
Really?
Tony Gwynn did 1 time, and Tony Gwynn also had 297 3-hit games, and just some amazing stats out there for some of these players.
Well, while you're on this little trivia binge here, our trivia question for this week. You want me to go ahead and ask that?
Yeah, this was your baby. It was a good one.
So in 1990, we remember that as the wire-to-wire season.
Yeah.
Winning the World Series, sweeping the A's, all that good stuff. It was wire-to-wire because they didn't lose for a while to start the season, right?
Right.
So the question is, how many games, what was the winning streak to start the season, the 1990 season? So we'll look for that. Nobody answered this week's online. I didn't see any answers.
No, we're not getting a lot of activity.
Yeah, we didn't
Something
really.
About our intimidating presence.
So the question was what? The second, it was Pete Rose surpassed who to become the all-time National League hits leader on his path to Ty Cobb. A few years before that, he passed this guy to be the all-time.
A big hint now.
National
Tom
League.
Sizer may be looking at his statue right now.
The man.
That's right. And when we were asking Tom about it, you used that hint in the word
I said the man, and he didn't catch on.
As you know, as I've been saying, I don't think he reads our texts anyway.
Not all of them. He'll come up and say, you start asking stuff about something like, Tom, we did that like 20 minutes ago. What was unique the other day against the Rockies, I don't know why, I just started thinking, name some ex-Rockies who were superstars. And Billy would have had a stolen base. Joey hits it to the second baseman, so a fielder's choice. Votto out at first, Hamilton at second with 2 outs. Yeah.
So name some Colorado Rocky superstars from days gone by.
So I was quick.
You were. I said name 3 of them.
And I gave you 4.
And I was thinking Larry Walker.
Yeah, which I gave you.
I forgot about Dante Bichette.
That's the one. I gave you that one.
We talked about Helton, the quarterback from Tennessee.
Yeah.
And was there others? Andres
Galarraga, the big cat.
The big cat. And then later on, we came up with some other ones that...
some other players. And then Tom, like a half hour later, hey, who's some great Rocky players? Like, where you been, man?
And at first, I thought he was doing like with our Bob's thread. And the one time, it was Groundhog Day. And Mark Bittinger would ask a question, and Tom would ask the same exact question, and Biddy didn't get it. He didn't understand it. So at first, I thought Tom was maybe being a little smart alecky and doing another Groundhog's Day, but no, he was being serious.
He needed to scroll.
What are the odds of someone asking that question? Name some Rockies.
Yeah, he needed to scroll back and see what we've been talking about, but there'd probably been about 30 texts in the meantime, so, complaining about whatever.
There was the one time he left his phone in D.C. and got it back, and there were 272 texts from us.
Yeah, he left it in an Uber ride.
Oh.
Yeah, so... But anyway, so the answer, we haven't even said the answer. Stan Musial had 3,600 and some hits. And Duvall comes through, knocks Billy in. What do you know? There you go.
Good job, Duvall. A soft liner single to the left field. We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it. So anyway, so we got the lead, jumping out on the Tribe. It's good to see. So
it's good to see a lead, yes.
Yeah, it's good to see an early lead, not give up runs in the first inning. So, all right. Well, this week we've got the Indians 2 here, and then we go up to Lake Erie for 2.
And you'll be happy.
What?
You'll be happy because no Reds pitchers will be
batting.
That's right.
Oh.
Jeff is a big proponent of the DH.
So who's going to DH?
Well, do you have?
It'll be a righty-lefty choice.
Candidate will be Mesoraco.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that would make sense. Let Barnhart catch a couple games and put Mesoraco in.
If it's a righty pitcher, I could see Scooter Gennett.
Yeah. Only the third choice would probably be Alcantara, but I think Mesoraco makes a lot of sense. They put Turner on the DL, and
they did.
That poor guy didn't get to play much, and he batted. He had a pinch hit in a key situation, kind of with some guys on base recently. And, I mean, he didn't look like he'd ever swung a bat before. Poor guy. He hadn't probably batted in a week. He's in there facing some guy throwing 98 miles an hour, and he just didn't look good. But
based on his experience and time in the majors, if the Reds do reassign him, he has the right to not report.
Right, and the Brewers or whoever it is can get him back because he's.
And we don't want to pick up Corky Miller as our third.
No. Well, I think he was just insurance because of Mesoraco, but I wouldn't be surprised if that at some point Mesoraco is really catching every day and they feel like, okay, this guy's okay. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if they let him go.
Turner?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't surprise me. If you need a roster spot for something else, I could see that happening. So anyway, 4 games with the Tribe. Mm-hmm. And then off to Philly, and the Reds will be glad to see the Phillies, and
let's hope so.
And the Phillies will be glad to see the Reds.
That's right. That's right.
So this week was 1-5. I think we can do better this week.
Well, up until I think last year, whenever Cincinnati and Cleveland played, the home team had been winning every game, except last year the Tribe took it to the Reds. So. Hopefully the Reds can, with a good start tonight, 1-0 after 1. Hopefully Feldman will continue. You get Amir Garrett. He can't do any worse than he did in his last start.
No.
And you were upset about that. You blamed it on Reds management sending them down to Louisville.
Yeah, you got to blame somebody.
So if we could do that and then steal one up in Cleveland and be 3-1, and then head east to Philly. We'd like that.
That'd be nice. They're due. They've been on this roller coaster, so they're kind of due for this. They're due for this to play well. So hopefully they will, and they're due for a couple good starts.
Yes.
And the way they've been hitting the ball,
you're kind of getting nervous that we're due to not hit the ball.
Oh no! The way we've been hitting the ball, if that continues, which it should. Maybe there's one of those 10-8 wins in there, like we had that 12-8 win over the Rockies Friday. Mm-hmm. So, or was it Saturday? Whatever day it was. Saturday. So, one of those happens will be maybe we get split these games, win one more than we lose through all these, maybe 2 more than we lose, would be nice. So, I mean, the Indians are what, 23-19. Their ERA is 4.98. The Reds is 5.93. So, I mean, if we get some pitching that we're due for, we got every chance to win, like you said, 3 of these games from the Indians. So that would be nice to see. They're not, they don't look like a World Series team this year either, like the Cubs haven't too much, but you never know. We'll see what happens. So
if they can win 75 to 80 games overall with what we've seen with this team and what the lineup looks like, what the roster looks like, and injuries, we'll take it. But I am sort of getting a little frustrated of constant injuries with our pitchers. That it makes you wonder, okay, is there something that should be happening that's not happening, or it's just wear and tear?
I don't know. It's teams have that at times. With a couple years there, a few years ago, when we had that solid starting 5, what we had, like, they didn't miss a start, or they missed a couple. This year we've already had 9 or 10 guys start, and there for a couple years we never got to that level the whole season. So
that's true.
It's the same. It's the same franchise. You figure they're doing things pretty much the same. It's just one of those things. You hope for sturdiness, but you don't always get it. So Tom will be with us next week, and we'll see how they did, and hopefully we'll have some good starting pitching to talk about. At least a couple good starts.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll see Garrett back on the beam. Maybe Wojo will get a chance, or maybe he'll pitch really good in relief a couple more times and earn that right to start a game for one of these guys. It's just not pulling their weight very well.
Well, Arroyo's in danger. Arroyo could be working himself off the roster.
I agree. As soon as, is he the guy? If DeSclafani came back tomorrow, is Bronson the guy that gets demoted?
If you don't look at the face or the name and you just look at the numbers, you have to say he's the likely candidate.
Yeah, he is. I wonder if he could be a decent relief pitcher, not have to throw so many innings.
He would be this year's version of Rick Mailer.
Rick Mailer, nice. There's a name from the past.
He was also an ex-Atlanta.
Somehow we've managed to win the '76 World Series with Rick Mailer in the bullpen. He will not be on my list of favorite Reds.
No.
All right. Well, anyway, I guess we'll wrap it up for this week, and we'll be back, and hopefully we'll be back over 500, or at least even by then. What are we, 3 under right now?
I think it's 3 under, yeah.
So if we could get back to 500 by next week when we sit down and talk about these guys, that would be great. So that's it for this week. We'll talk to you later.